a truck body running in funny car class bounds, and NHRA's rulebook changed overnight.
Back in the late 1960s and early 1970s, these cars weren't just fast, they were straight up untouchable. Engines screaming like beasts, tires smoking, and every NHRA official scrambling, trying to make sense of the chaos. Fans were on the edge of their seats, mouths wide open, hearts pounding. These machines didn't just win races, they rewrote the rules, broke every expectation, and scared even the most seasoned tech inspectors. Stick around, because 5 legendary cars pushed the limits too far, and NHRA instantly regretted trying to stop them. Number 5. 1965 Dodge Coronet A FX. Back in 1965, Chrysler was cooking up something the drag racing world had never seen. On paper, it was a Dodge Coronet, your standard muscle machine of the era. But beneath that classic body, engineers were sneaking in a secret weapon, an altered wheelbase. By moving the front wheels forward, they didn't just tweak geometry, they changed the game. Suddenly, launches off the line were explosive, traction was unreal, and competitors in stock and superstock classes were left staring at clouds of smoke, jaws on the floor. This wasn't just a fast car, it was a statement, and everyone at the strip felt it. The first time the altered wheelbase Coronet rolled onto the strip, fans felt the tension instantly. Engines howling, tires screeching, the smell of burnt rubber hanging thick in the air, pure chaos. Trackside, the crowd leaned in, whispers spreading. This thing is hauling tail like nothing we've ever seen. Even seasoned NHRA tech inspectors were scratching their heads. The rulebook was supposed to govern speed, traction, and fairness, but this car was rewriting every line of it. Under the hood, the Coronet A FX packed Chrysler's top small block and big block options, tuned for maximum straight-line fury. It was stripped to the bones for weight reduction, just enough to dominate the quarter mile without sacrificing structural integrity. Drivers described it as a handful. One wrong move and it would spin, but get it right and it blew the doors off anything else in the class. And with the altered wheelbase, launches that once required careful timing now became lightning-fast surges, leaving competition trailing in smoke and disbelief. NHRA's reaction was immediate and dramatic. Officials tried to classify it in stock or superstock, but every pass shattered their attempts at fair competition. Altered wheelbase cars weren't explicitly banned yet, but the Coronet forced their hand. Within months, NHRA slammed the hammer. No more altered wheelbase cars in stock or superstock. While some competitors cheered, others were stunned. This ban didn't just limit one car, it created an entirely new class, one NHRA would later embrace, the funny car class. Ironically, the very thing they tried to suppress ended up shaping the future of drag racing. Fans, racers, and crew chiefs still talk about that 1965 Coronet like it was yesterday. It wasn't just a car, it was a rebel with a purpose. Every launch was an act of defiance, every record-breaking run, a reminder that ingenuity and risk could break rules and rewrite history. The altered wheelbase Coronet taught the racing world a lesson. If a machine is too fast, too clever, and too wild, even NHRA will have to adapt or regret it forever. In the end, the 1965 Dodge Coronet A FX wasn't just banned, it became legendary, the blueprint for every funny car that followed. Fans remember the smoke, the roar, the chaos, and the fact that one little tweak to a wheelbase changed the face of drag racing forever. It was daring, it was fast, and it forced NHRA to eat their words. Pure chaos, pure muscle, pure legend. Number 4, 1968, Hemi Dart and Hemi Barracuda A990/a Superstock. Back in 1968, Mopar wasn't just building cars, they were creating drag racing monsters. The Hemi Dart and Hemi Barracuda A990 Superstock models weren't optional speed machines, they were purpose-built track dominators. Lightweight bodies, stripped interiors, and that legendary 426 Hemi engine lurking under the hood meant one thing. These cars didn't just compete, they obliterated everything else in superstock. On the strip, the sound alone made fans lean in and racers sweat, a guttural roar that screamed, "This is no ordinary muscle car." The first time one of these Mopar beasts launched off the line, jaws dropped, tires smoked, engines thundered, and the announcer's voice cracked over the PA. "Look at that thing haul tail." Every shift, every quarter-mile pass was a demonstration of raw engineering genius. Drivers learned quickly that controlling the Dart or Barracuda took skill, a careless hand, and it could spin like a top or put you in the wall. But when handled right, it blew the doors off every competitor on the strip. And fans, they were eating it up. The smell of rubber and gasoline, the adrenaline, the chaos. It was pure, unfiltered drag racing bliss. NHRA, however, wasn't exactly thrilled. How do you classify a car that shatters the rules as soon as it hits the strip? Super stock was supposed to be fair, competitive, and predictable, and the Hemi Darts and Barracudas were anything but. Officials were scratching their heads, trying to figure out how to keep races even. Every run forced them to rewrite parts of the rulebook, and every time another one of these Mopars hit the strip, the suits at NHRA freaked out. They weren't just fast, they were untouchable, and the racing world took notice. The performance numbers were staggering. Factory-built drag monsters meant you didn't need a custom shop or garage wizardry. These cars were ready to race right off the lot. With 426 cubic inches of Hemi Fury, lightweight construction, and precision engineering, the Dart and Barracuda became symbols of Mopar dominance. Fans would whisper trackside, "Nothing else stands a chance. These things are beasts." Even seasoned drivers from other brands admitted that facing one of these at the strip felt like stepping into the ring with a heavyweight champion. The chaos on the track translated to a ripple effect across the sport. Competitors demanded rule adjustments. NHRA had to scramble to maintain fairness, and the Mopar name grew legendary. Every launch, every smoke-filled burnout, every record-smashing pass cemented their place in drag racing history. What started as a factory-built muscle car became a symbol of rebellion, defying conventions and forcing the NHRA to adapt. Today, the 1968 Hemi Dart and Hemi Barracuda are immortal, not just as classic Mopars, but as track legends that made history, challenged rules, and showed the world how far engineering and raw horsepower could push the sport. When fans and historians talk about cars that changed drag racing forever, these Mopar beasts always top the list. They weren't just machines, they were rebels with engines, and NHRA, for all its rules, had no choice but to respect them. Number 3. 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 Cupo. 1969 marked a bold move by General Motors. The Camaro ZL1 Cupo was no ordinary muscle car. Under that sleek sheet metal lurked a 427 all-aluminum big block engine. And the best part, GM officially offered it to racers, knowing full well it could tear up the stock classes. When this Camaro hit the strip, it didn't just run, it hailed tail like a rocket, leaving competitors scrambling and NHRA tech inspectors shaking their heads. Trackside, the scene was electric. The engine's howl rattled the grandstands, smoke curling from the tires as the Camaro launched. Fans cheered, mouths wide open, the smell of burnt rubber hanging thick in the air. Drivers quickly realized handling this beast wasn't for the faint of heart. Throttle too light, and you'd be embarrassed, too heavy, and it could spin or shake loose off the line. But get it right, and it obliterated the competition. Every quarter mile was a spectacle of raw Detroit muscle, a symphony of power and chaos that left even seasoned drag racers in awe. The NHRA didn't outright ban the ZL1 Cupo, not yet. But they scrambled, adjusting class rules and eligibility criteria almost immediately. Officials were clear, this car wasn't just fast, it was dangerous to the competitive balance. Competitors knew it too. Racing against a ZL1 felt like trying to fight a hurricane with a paper fan. Every time one of these Camaros burned down the strip, the rulebook got flipped upside down. Yet fans ate it up. There was nothing like seeing an aluminum big block Camaro smoke the field like it was standing still. Technically, this was a marvel. The all-aluminum 427 engine kept weight down while producing insane horsepower, paired with precision-built suspension and stripped interiors for maximum launch efficiency. GM had handed racers a ready-to-run monster, and it lived up to every whispered promise. Track legends still recall how it hauled tail and blew the doors off anything else in stock. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement, and one that screamed, "Welcome to the big leagues." The ZL1 Cupo's dominance forced NHRA to think carefully about class parity. Competitors protested, safety concerns rose, and fans demanded more. This car changed the stock classes overnight, showing that sometimes factory-built drag machines could outrun the rulebook itself. And while NHRA tried to tone it down with eligibility limits, the Camaro had already cemented its legacy as a fearsome legend, a car that scared competitors, awed fans, and forced racing authorities to adapt or regret it. Today, the 1969 ZL1 Cupo is legendary, a car that symbolizes Detroit's muscle, GM's boldness, and the raw thrill of drag racing in its golden era. When enthusiasts talk about cars NHRA couldn't handle, this Camaro tops the list: fast, fearless, and unforgettable. It wasn't just about winning, it was about rewriting the rules and showing the world what real horsepower could do on the strip. Number 2. 1970 Plymouth Superbird. 1970 was the year Chrysler threw the racing world a curveball nobody could ignore. The Plymouth Superbird and Dodge Charger Daytona weren't just muscle cars, they were aerodynamic missiles built for pure speed on the strip and the track. With towering rear wings and pointed noses, these machines looked like they belonged in the future, yet they were very much a product of their era. When they hit the strip, they didn't just race, they redefined what fast meant. Fans leaning over the guardrails felt the shock instantly. Engines screaming like thunder, tires screeching as they launched, exhaust flames licking the air, the crowd went wild. The Superbird's nose cone cut through the wind like a knife, while the Daytona's elongated body seemed to defy gravity. Trackside whispers were unanimous. These things are untouchable. Even seasoned NHRA tech inspectors and competitors stared in disbelief. They were fast, dangerous, and a handful to control, proving that aerodynamic design could dominate the strip before anyone else even understood the advantage. Under the hood, both cars were packing heavy hitters, big block engines tuned to perfection. Weight distribution and specialized suspension meant launches could be explosive, yet stable enough to hold the line. Drivers described them as a beast that needed a soft touch and a firm hand. One wrong move on launch, and it could spin or slide, but when mastered, the Superbird and Daytona hailed tail like rockets, leaving every other muscle car in a cloud of smoke and awe. NHRA's reaction was immediate and tense. Initially, these cars weren't banned outright, but officials quickly restricted their eligibility in certain classes due to safety concerns. Too fast for their own good, too much for existing rules, they had broken the system. The organization realized that if they ignored these machines, the competition would be obsolete overnight. Yet banning them entirely wasn't an option either. These cars weren't just fast, they were legends in motion, a bold statement from Chrysler that the era of ordinary muscle cars was over. The impact of the Superbird and Daytona extended beyond the track. Their design inspired a generation of engineers, challenged NHRA regulations, and set new benchmarks for drag and stock car performance. Fans still recall the first time they saw one on the strip, the roar, the smell of burning rubber, and the collective gasp as the car blasted past everything else like it wasn't even racing. Safety concerns aside, these machines captured the imagination of a nation hungry for speed, spectacle, and sheer audacity. In the end, the 1970 Plymouth Superbird and Dodge Charger Daytona became icons, not just cars, but symbols of innovation, rebellion, and raw power. NHRA may have tried to limit their dominance, but the legacy of these aerodynamic legends cannot be contained. They proved that when engineers and drivers push the envelope, the rulebook has no choice but to follow or regret it forever. Number 1. 1971 Ford Mustang Boss 429 Funny Car, Blue Max and similar builds. 1971 was the year Ford unleashed chaos in the drag strip world with the Boss 429-powered Mustang funny cars, including the legendary Blue Max. These machines weren't just fast, they were ferocious, experimental beasts, engineered to dominate and shock everyone who dared line up beside them. With stripped-down bodies, massive 429 big block engines, and lightweight chassis, these Mustangs were the ultimate expression of raw horsepower and audacious engineering. From the moment one of these beasts rolled onto the strip, it was pure spectacle. Engines screaming like a pack of wild animals, tires smoking, and flames licking the air, the crowd could barely keep their jaws off the ground. Drivers had to master every nuance of throttle control, steering and timing, because one mistake could send the car veering out of control. Yet when handled correctly, the Mustang hauled tail like nothing else, leaving competitors in a cloud of smoke, stunned and humiliated. Trackside, fans were wide-eyed, cheering, feeling the pure adrenaline and chaos that only a car like this could deliver. The NHRA was quick to react. These funny cars were breaking class expectations, forcing tech inspectors to rethink engine limitations, chassis rules, and safety protocols. They tried to restrict setups, limit engine combos, and tone down the experimentation, but the Mustangs just kept getting faster. With every quarter-mile pass, the Boss 429 funny cars proved unstoppable, redefining what a drag car could be and showing that ingenuity and raw power could leave even the rulebook in the dust. Technically, the Blue Max and its siblings were marvels. The massive 429 cubic inch engine delivered insane horsepower. paired with a purpose-built suspension and stripped interiors that maximized every ounce of acceleration. Drivers described them as a handful, a true test of skill and nerves. But every launch was worth it, a breathtaking display of speed, precision, and pure muscle. Competitors respected them, NHRA feared them, and fans worshipped them. It was raw, unfiltered racing at its finest. The impact of these cars went far beyond the strip. They forced NHRA to evolve, inspired engineers, and cemented the Mustang Boss 429 funny car as a legend in drag racing history. Fans still recall the smell of burnt rubber, the roar of the engine, and the moment these cars blew the doors off everything else on the line. They weren't just fast, they were revolutionary, shaping the future of funny cars, drag racing, and NHRA itself. In the end, the 1971 Mustang Boss 429 funny cars, with their audacity, speed, and innovation, became symbols of defiance and raw power. NHRA tried to tame them, but the cars had already left a mark that would never be forgotten. These machines didn't just race, they changed history. Looking back at these 5 machines, the 1965 Dodge Coronet AFX, the 1968 Hemi Dart and Hemi Barracuda, the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 Copo, the 1970 Plymouth Superbird and Dodge Charger Daytona, and the 1971 Ford Mustang Boss 429 funny cars. One thing is clear, NHRA tried to hold them back, but they couldn't. Each of these cars was more than metal and horsepower. They were rebels with engines, shaking the drag strip, terrifying competitors, and rewriting the rulebook as they went. Every launch, every quarter mile, every cloud of smoke wasn't just a race, it was a statement. It was a reminder that engineering, creativity, and raw audacity could outpace even the strictest rules and regulations. Fans remember the smell of burnt rubber, the roar of engines, and the adrenaline that surged through every strip-side stand when these legends hit the line. Drivers still tell stories of handling beasts that could spin on a dime if you weren't careful, yet rewarded you with power, speed, and glory if you got it right. Officials at NHRA may have tried to classify, restrict, or even ban them outright, but those moves only cemented the cars' legacies. They weren't just fast, they were untouchable, unforgettable, and unstoppable. The altered wheelbase on the Dodge Coronet gave birth to the funny car class. The Hemi Dart and Barracuda obliterated superstock. The Camaro ZL1 Copo forced rules to bend. The Superbird and Daytona pushed aerodynamic innovation, and the Boss 429 Mustangs redefined what a drag car could be. Each left NHRA with a hard lesson. Sometimes the machines are just too wild to tame, and the history they make will never fade. These cars also left an enduring mark on fans and the culture of American drag racing. They reminded a generation why muscle mattered, why innovation mattered, and why the thrill of speed could never be contained by any rulebook. To watch one of these machines launch, hauling tail down the strip, was to witness freedom, ingenuity, and raw power in motion. They were bold, dangerous, and beautiful, exactly what fans craved. And decades later, their aura hasn't dimmed. They are studied, celebrated, and worshipped by enthusiasts who understand that legends don't ask permission. If this journey through outlaw muscle, broken rules, and NHRA regrets fired you up, don't just sit there, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and make sure you tap the notification bell. There are more untold stories, more legends, and more machines that shook the foundations of racing waiting for you on this channel. Dive into our end screens, check out the next video, and keep exploring the golden age of drag racing with us. Every engine, every launch, every cloud of smoke tells a story, and you don't want to miss a single one. So remember this, these 5 cars weren't just banned, they were immortalized. They taught NHRA, competitors and fans alike, that speed, power, and audacity could never be fully controlled. They were wild, they were reckless, and they were magnificent. And even decades later, the legend of the Dodge Coronet AFX, Hemi Dart and Barracuda, Camaro ZL1 Copo, Superbird and Daytona, and Mustang Boss 429 funny cars still haunts the drag strip. Stick around, because the story of outlaw muscle is far from over, and we're just getting started.